What do you even mean by San Andrean Creole?
Is it a language, an accent, or just a dialect? Or what's the difference anyway? Or is there a deeper story behind it? Let's find out.
In a Creole, please.
Language is simply one means of communication. You got natural language where develop organically through human use, constructed language where people intentionally create like Esperanto, and of course sign language like the Providence Sign Language or the British Sign Language.
The United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa, they're all English-speaking countries, even though all of them got one different dialect of English. Even in Britain, for example, you can find different accents all across the country, like for example Cockney and Scottish, but all of them the same English. In contrast, in the UK, you can't equate Gaelic, Welsh and Scots to English because they're different language, even though they influence each other. But further on, we'll expand on this.
Members of the word Creole have several connotations: linguistic classification, culture, food, music, and also one name.
So because we use the same word for different meanings, confusion may come up, and we don't want to get in a foolish disagreement just through semantics. Sake of that, in this video, when we talk specifically about what language we refer to it as Bende, whether how well people study call it, and Creole when it comes to the linguistic category. So one Creole, that one natural language we develop for one mixing a language where become one people at that time. Plenty Creole language exists all over the world. And even though they share similar origin process, they can either be closely related or very different from each other depending on their historical development. Like how Guadeloupe and Martinique talk one mutually intelligible French-based Creole, but you also got Portuguese-based Creole like Papiamento in the Dutch Caribbean, or more specifically, the ABC Islands, where one far different from, for example, one English-based Creole like Creolese in Guyana.
One dialect in a particular form of language we talk in a specific area or by one particular group of people. It might get different vocabulary, grammar and pronunciation from the standard version of the language, but it allows for mutual understanding between the two. When time it comes down to dialects, some people may refer to it in a derogatory way. They perceive it as substandard or wrong. However, this no got no linguistic basis. Plenty time the distinction between language and dialect determined by political and cultural factors rather than by linguistic ones. Take for example the dialect when talk in the southern part of America. Even though across the south you can find different accents, then got some particular grammatical features. Like for example, one time they use the word y'all to indicate the plural of you. Like for example, one time they say, howdy y'all, or where y'all going. One other example that one time they use double modals, like the expression might could. Yet another example would be the African American vernacular English, also known as Ebonics, where got for one set of rules and vocabulary. Like for example, the habitual word be were used to indicate repeated actions. Like for example, one time they say he be working instead of he works regularly. Some people that want to call them a dialect broken English. However, they're not like if the one person where just they learn the language and where they constantly make mistakes. No, they may have just one variety of the language. And from a linguistic point of view, all types of language, even the non-standard varieties, they are a valid system of communication. Them here so-called non-standard varieties follow a consistent set of rules based on the context and the community where they're talking, even though it may be different from the mainstream English. In fact, the AAVE greatly influenced mainstream American English through music, media, and pop culture. However, while important to mention say all dialects linguistically equal, we can't deny the fact say the standard version of the language them play one crucial and important role in a government, media, written communication and broader communication to avoid confusion among people from different social groups and regions.
That means that the difference between the dialect and the standard language is more social than linguistic.
Some places or people sometimes accentuate or pronounce words different in one particular language. And Bende, that's not the exception. For example, people versus people. Or when some say can't, others may say can't or can't. You see, one accent involves phonetic variations, like intonation and rhythm, and it was influenced by geographic, socioeconomic, or ethnic factors. You also got non-native accents, and they were influenced by the person's native language. For example, one Panya that talk English may got one Latino or Spanish accent. Even in the southern dialect in the USA, you got different accents. For example, the Texas accent different from the Georgia accent, but then that's just variation of the American English. In the Western Caribbean, Carnelan and Pearl Lagoon Creole may got subtle differences in their accent, and them themselves slightly different from the Belize dialect. But one variation no better than the other. By definition, when linguists classify one language as a Creole language, then that language is not just one dialect or accent, that one completely different language. Of course, plenty similarities will exist with the language it derived from. For example, vocabulary-wise, the lexicon in one Creole language usually mostly come from the colonizer language. That's why most words in Afro Creole won't be the same as in English, with differences in the pronunciation. But the syntax, in other words, the structure of the sentence will convey a precise meaning and grammatical relationship, were different from the colonizer language them and more heavily influenced by the African language them. Because remember said that Yoruba, Igbo and Twi them when they think Kina. Maybe they when they learn and use English words. But they mind when they think and arrange words to create meaningful sentence in them own language.
From we smile the English we talk and that about Creole new. That's just like how in Spanish you got different accents. You got Costeño and Paisa. Or somebody from Spain and Mexico talk different.
I think maybe we got a little misunderstanding. In Latin America we talk one different dialect than Spain, no truth. But that's still correct Spanish, right? In contrast, Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian, the Romance language. Then so similar to the point that if you know one, you can understand plenty things from the other. Then derive from Latin, but then they're different languages. And each one of them, they also one distinct language from Latin. What I'm to say, then beating our head say we talk bad. And of course the slave master want call it bad English. But we don't broke them chain and free from mental slavery, right? But I want to share one last example just to make sure we're on the same page. That's just like how English, that one Germanic language alongside German and Dutch. Same root origin, but different languages. In the same way, few women that derive from English, yet that one language of its own. It got accents like the one San Andres and the one Providence. And you can find different dialects like the one Bocas. But still the same Western Caribbean Creole language.
Okay. That's just like how Haitian Creole, that one French-based Creole. But Haitian Creole and French, they're two different languages. One Frenchman can't understand Creole unless the one who talk Creole switch to French and talking a French language. In the same way, English and Free Creole are two different languages.
So, vende that one language or just one English dialect or accent?
Bended are not just one English dialect or accent, because that one separate language. That one Creole language we got for him own accents and dialects.